Hi, I'm Pat Carabray. I'm the director here at the Chan Center for the Performing Arts, and I'm really excited to be able to have a conversation with the members of PIQSIQ. We have Tiffany, Ayalik, and Inuksuk, Mackay. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Pat.
That was such an incredible performance. Like, it was mesmerizing, it was delicate and intimate, it was such a range of great emotions. How are you doing during all of this craziness that we've been living through?
Up and down. I think much like our sets, you know, we have these completely different things all happening at the same time. And I feel like the pandemic has brought a lot of hardship, but it also has been filled with a lot of really beautiful silver linings for us, and a lot of time to reflect, a lot of reflection time is going on, and a lot, thank goodness that we're bubbled up together and that has been safe for us, and that we're able to stay in relation with each other and be with our families, and that's really, really important to us, and that has always been a great source of inspiration for us. So I'm grateful for the time. It's starting to pick back up again, and I think we're going to have a second wave where we have to do some other version of lockdown again. But in this time where things have been calmed a little, it's been a really beautiful time for our family, and a really great time to reflect and create in a different way than we have sort of pre-pandemic.
And so much less travel.
Oh my God, so much less travel.
I think that's one of the biggest changes for us. And I'm not really looking forward to traveling all over the place again.
No, and that is one of the challenging parts of being a musician. So has it been a creative time for you? You've been working on new repertoire?
Yeah, I think we all know about the hustle and bustle. I mean, we would talk about it pre-pandemic, like everyone knows about it, but I don't think it sunk in how intense it is until you've been at home for 8 weeks and you haven't gone anywhere, you haven't done anything, and then you're like, oh, it was real. The hustle was real. And so I think as we prepare to sort of enter back into some sort of normalcy, that we don't want to go fully back to that. And so figuring out where the balance is to enter into that space again in a new way.
Like taking the best from kind of both situations instead of like the worst capitalist things from both of those situations, right. And how are we creating from that place that's a little more grounded and less frenetic, kind of frantic energy. And I think even just in the online performances we've been doing has been feeling super grounded, and then we get to do a show and then go have dinner with our family afterwards and not have to be like, oh, see you in 3 days, honey. Like, so that's been a huge shift for us, because we were, especially right before the pandemic hit, we were in Germany and Switzerland, and we were like traveling all over the place, and this is probably the longest we've ever been in our adult lives in one place.
I think
so that's definitely inspiring us in different ways.
Well, that's great. So you were promoting your last album, I think, right? When on tour in Europe?
Altering the timeline. The one after that is a Christmas album, so very seasonal.
Yeah.
The creepiest Christmas album you ever heard.
Christmas album ever.
No, but I mean, it has some great sounds in it, and an interesting concept, because you're kind of trying to bring together these two worlds that you're part of, you know, the traditional world and the Western world, not always syncing up together.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I really love our title for the album, PIQSIQ, In Search of Harmony. And PIQSIQ is the Inuit word for Christmas time, and it literally means like the happy time, like when we're all supposed to be like coming together and being happy. And so we found that super interesting on a linguistic and sort of an emotional and political level, is this introduction into Inuit communities of Christianity and Christmas and celebrating the birth of Christ and all of these things that in theory are good things to celebrate, However, the way that it was introduced to Inuit communities was horribly traumatic, and the direct link, the direct arm of colonization coming and oppressing Inuit. And so we have a lot of feelings about Christmas.
Mixed feelings.
We have so many mixed feelings about it, and it's a beautiful time of, like, we've always loved Christmas as kids.
There's the feasts, like the community
Feasts and
games at the community hall.
And the music, like, we love Christmas carols. And then this album was our attempt at finding where some of those ideas and concepts land with us, and
how do we just
how are we stitching together these two very disparate experiences. And then, let's be honest, outside of Inuit communities, I feel like Christmas is complicated for everybody. There is not, outside of a Hallmark movie, I have not found the, like, super,
family time
bow on top of everything. There's this expectation that everything be perfect at Christmas, which undoubtedly makes it worse. So I feel like there's a lot of mourning, and there's a lot of complication, and there's a lot of disharmony, and we were trying to find the sonic versions of that in that album.
So with the music that we heard today, there is also that kind of cross between traditional things and very modern things. So you're using a loop machine, you're playing with the electronics, but you're using a lot of very traditional components of chaotically singing. So tell us a little bit about how that fits in. What are the little nuggets for people to listen to?
I think you'll hear elements of chaotically in each piece, and one of the strongest themes that comes through in our performance is improvisation. So with traditional Inuit chaotically, not all the songs are improvised, but there is a very strong improvisational element where you're trying to sort of outdo your partner, and they're chasing you through the song, and so just a split second off of each other. So in the spirit of that, you change it to see if they can keep up, and
that they're listening,
and that they're paying attention, and so you have to be really in sync with each other. So when we create a show, we'll often just have a few notes, and we improvise everything from that basic structure. So everything that you'll hear in those shows are completely improvised in the moment.
And it's been a really fun way for us to, look at an element of our culture and cultural expression that is dynamic and new and exciting for us, and that we have the permission to explore our culture in this way also. And we also like to play with the expectation that audiences may have in terms of what they think chaotically, or what Inuit performance looks like, or what, like, this is us being Inuit performers. Like, this is our version of that, which is equally as authentic as two people unmiked doing a traditional song are. And so this is our way in which we're keeping this tradition alive for ourselves and dynamic and exciting for us. And that's equally as traditional in a way, and that if the things that are allowed to be dynamic and survive and be interesting for next generations are the things that are carried forward. And if they're too stiff and too rigid, then they're not embraced by the next generations. So this is sort of our version of neo-traditional and an expression of our culture, because we're in 2020 now, and this is what it looks like to us.
I think it's also metaphorical of the way that we navigate being Inuk today. Some of the practices may have changed drastically, but the values don't necessarily need to. And so if you're able to bring those values that you grew up, the thing beneath the iceberg that people don't see, if you can bring those values in, and so even if you're doing something with modern technology, that element that's ancient is still there.
So do you think of the sounds, like when you're creating one of your songs, like there are a lot of imitative things, whether it's seagulls or wind or dogs or any of those things? Do you think of them as pre-existing, that they have to be kept in a certain way, or how much do you modify those as you put them into your music?
I think part of the, especially what we were performing at the beginning, is our sonic land acknowledgement that we do. to recognize the land that we're on right now, with like on the coast, and that one of the elements of katajak is to be inspired by the oral world around you, and to be inspired by the sound of chores, of weather, of animals, of anything, like weather, anything around you that makes sound, to be able to listen deeply to it, interpret it in your own body, and then kind of give it back out into the world. And so some of them are straight imitations, and that's like an element of us to kind of showing a prowess to be able to call animals in case we're hunting or wanting to talk with them in certain ways. That like that's a straight imitation, and then some of them are more poetic in terms of how we're interpreting them as well. So it's singer's choice. It's really up to how you feel in the moment.
And the Bearded Seal song comes to mind, where I feel like it's more inspired by the movement of the animal across the ice than the actual sound.
Yeah. So it's they're not always one for one sort of comparisons, but it's definitely the essence of things that we're embodying.
So the drum came out at one point, and it's such an incredible sound. I just love the sound of your drum. Thank you for that. The tradition of drumming in various Indigenous cultures is quite different and quite unique. How the drums are made, who can play them, how they fit into the practice. Can you kind of give us a little context for your drum?
Yeah, so geography dictates a lot, right? So what they would have been made out of, for example. So traditionally they would be a skin drum. This one's synthetic. It's
travel friendly.
It's humidity friendly. We don't have a lot of humidity in the Arctic, so we do have a skin drum, but it just doesn't travel very well. And a traditional Inuit drum is played on the rim and not on the surface of the skin. So I think that's probably the most distinguishing factor. And the motion that you play it with traditionally, which we didn't demonstrate today, is to alternate rims. And so you're sort of letting the movement of your body play the drum. It's not just the hands.
And for Inuit, there's no sort of gender restriction on in terms of who gets to play the drum. And especially where my family comes from, my side of the family comes from in the Western Arctic, that someone can be drumming, man, woman, whoever will be drumming, and people are dancing and singing, and then someone feels the spirit and comes in and sort of takes over, and then someone else gets a break. So it's passed very fluidly, and I feel like that's a sort of an echo of the sort of fluidity of gender roles within Inuit culture too, is that it's like you're just there, you're with everybody, that there are things that are typically one way or another, but then even within that there's a great amount of fluidity in terms of who does what in our communities. And so anybody can drum, anybody is singing, everybody can dance, and
everyone can hunt,
everybody hunts, everybody sews, everybody looks after kids, and that's something that's important in our family too, that we're keeping that going, because life's hard and everyone just has to kind of like pull their sleeves up and get in there. And
we were talking a little bit before about even eating during the pandemic, and how the different expectations of what food is available in the far north compared to down here. For many of us, it was just trying to find toilet paper, milk, eggs, certain basic things. How are you doing with all that these days? We're going into the winter again, so.
Yeah, it's funny to think about how, especially in urban places, we are not set up for food insecurity. And this is a classic example of like panic goes in the water, and then it's like,
supply chains are
our
collapsing.
Beautiful little community that we all had, we're looking out for each other, becomes pretty cutthroat very quickly. And I feel like people, especially in the Arctic, have been dealing with food insecurity for forever, really. Like it's a feast and famine cycle. And so the understanding of preparing and being ready for times, lean times, I think is
It's pretty natural.
it's pretty natural. But then the sort of unnatural part of being, you know, in Vancouver or something is to have to try to get to the grocery store at, you know, 7 a.m. to try and like get your toilet paper or whatever. So this is like, in some ways it's more stable because it's a consistent expectation that times will be hard. But at the same time, being down here, it's highlighted how fragile the food system is down here also. So that's been a lot of the reflection of like, how do we maintain and how do we sustain during times that are hard.
And so one element of that ties into the little bit we were saying about transferring values, even if the practice is different, is we've started quite a large garden. So with a lot of root vegetables, you know, because that's what makes sense to keep. Yeah. And so for the first time ever, these little tundra Inuit
are cultivating the land.
Green old thumb. Yeah.
Like, oh look, there's no permafrost. We can grow things.
Yes. So it's been a good experience. Canning.
Who knew?
We're learning.
This is what Indigenous resiliency looks like right now.
Totally, whatever makes sense in the surroundings.
Yeah.
Well, and you were also pretty involved in the whole challenge about the Edmonton football team name. Like, so Indigenous resurgence, you're staking your position and making it very clear. That seems really important to you both.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a generation too that we grew up with that horrible slur and that horrible name, and our experience with it is one
oddly different than our parents' generation,
right? Like
I feel like we had a very different experience with that word than our parents' generation. I feel like they had not a lot of options, and so you don't put too much energy. Like if you're living in the Arctic and conditions are hard, you need to conserve energy, so you don't put a lot of energy into something you don't think you can change. And so I think for me, I feel like it's a sign that we are making progress, and that now, you know, some of the more serious things like a public apology have been attained, and so we can focus on some of the things that our parents wouldn't have even considered challenging.
Well, I think it's so great that you were able to share your culture and your music with us tonight. It was beautiful. It showed us an incredible range of sounds that's there, and I know that our audience really enjoyed it. So thank you both so much. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Pat. It was such a pleasure to have the space and be, you know, with even a few people in a nice big space. So thank you. It was beautiful.